My dear students, today we are going to learn about body fluids and circulation. So we know animals, particularly larger animals like mammals, are more active. So mammals such as humans, we know that within our body, the transport system or the circulatory system helps in the coordination of physiological process by transporting chemical signals from one place to another and assisting in the defense of the body by transporting immune cells to the sites of the infection. These processes contribute to overall homeostasis. Homeostasis means maintenance of constant internal environment. Movement of respiratory gases, hormones and nutrients, waste and heat are carried by the circulatory system. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged in the lungs and tissues, whereas nutrients from digestive system are carried to the liver and the waste from the tissue are carried by the blood and finally removed by the kidneys. The hormones are transported to their target organs. Circulatory system helps to maintain the homeostasis of the body fluids and body temperature. The homeostatic regulation of cardiovascular system maintains blood flow to the brain and the heart. So now we will learn in detail about the body fluid which makes all these above said functions possible. So there are two types of body fluids: intracellular fluid present inside the cells and the extracellular fluid present outside the cell. So there are three types of extracellular fluid. One is tissue fluid, next one is plasma and lymph. So in this chapter we will learn about blood, which consists of plasma. So we all know that blood is the most common body fluid that transports substances from one part of the body to the other. Blood is a connective tissue consisting of plasma and other blood cells. The plasma constitutes 55% of the total blood volume and the remaining 45% is the blood cells. The average blood volume is about 5 liter in an adult whose weight is 70 kilogram. Okay, so that is the total blood volume. So we all know that how important is blood, because as we said earlier, so it helps in respiration, digestion and also in excretion. So the blood is a type of connective tissue, contains living and non-living components. So the sole purpose of the blood is transport nutrients and waste throughout the body. As I said, the composition of the blood is 58% of plasma and 45% of blood cells. So the plasma mainly consists of water, about 80 to 90%, and the other 10% is plasma proteins and respiratory gases. So we know that the respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, are transported via blood through the lungs. So these respiratory gases are dissolved in the plasma. So in plasma, it has plasma proteins which are synthesized in the liver. They are albumin, globulin, prothrombin and fibrinogen. The albumin maintains the osmotic pressure of the blood, whereas globulin facilitates the transport of ions, hormones, lipids, and also assists in the immune function. So immunity is nothing but fighting against the foreign disease causing antigens. So globulin helps in the immune function, which is nothing but fighting against the foreign antigens. Next is that prothrombin and fibrinogen, they too are involved in blood clotting. So the plasma contains very important plasma proteins. So these four are the inorganic constituents. You can see in the picture how the blood is separated after centrifugation. Plasma and blood cells. So we studied the components of the plasma. So next one is the blood cells. These cells make up of 45% of the total blood volume. There are majorly three types of blood cells, which are erythrocytes, also known as red blood cells, leukocytes, which are the white blood cells, and platelets, which have the blood clotting factors. Now we will study each blood cells in detail. So these red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets are collectively called formed elements. So the red blood cells are abundant than the other blood cells. There are about 5 million to 5.5 million RBCs per cubic millimeter of the blood in a healthy man, and 4.5 to 5.0 millions of RBC per cubic millimeter in the healthy women. So in the plasma, which is a liquid part of the blood, there are albumin, fibrinogen and globulin, which are the inorganic constituents and also called as the plasma proteins. And there are organic constituents, include urea, amino acid, glucose, fat and vitamins. These are also having a significant function, because after digestion the amino acid, glucose, fats and vitamins are carried through the blood, which are dissolved inside the plasma. So these nutrients are taken to the different parts of the body. Okay, so that is the entire function of the plasma. Now in the RBCs, as I said earlier, the total amount of RBC in a healthy man and a healthy woman varies. We know that the red color of the RBC is due to the presence of a respiratory pigment hemoglobin dissolved in the cytoplasm. The hemoglobin plays an important role in the transport of respiratory gases and facilitates the exchange of gases with the fluid outside the cell. The RBCs are biconcave shaped. RBC increases the surface area to volume ratio. Hence, oxygen diffuses quickly in and out of the cell. Do you know that RBCs are devoid of nucleus, that means they don't have nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes and endoplasmic reticulum. You can see the picture of the RBC. The absence of these organelles accommodates more hemoglobin, thereby maximizing the oxygen carrying capacity of the cell. The average lifespan of RBC in a healthy individual is about 120 days, after which they are destroyed in the spleen, which is called as the graveyard of RBCs, and the iron components are returned to the bone marrow for reuse. Erythropoietin is a hormone secreted by the kidneys in response to low oxygen and helps in differentiation of stem cells of the bone marrow to erythrocytes in the adults. That means the production of RBCs is initiated by a protein called as erythropoietin. If there is low oxygen, means it will give the signal to the bone marrow and more number of red blood cells will be produced. So, when the amount of RBCs decreases in our body, it will be called as anemia. Anemia is nothing but lower red blood cells count, low hemoglobin concentration, or deformed RBCs, which will create lower oxygen to our body, which will slow the process of our body, which will make the life difficult. Next we will see about the leukocytes. They are also known as the white blood cells. These white blood cells are colorless, amoeboid, nucleated cells, devoid of hemoglobin and other pigments. Approximately 6,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeter of WBs are seen in the blood of an average healthy individual. And these WBCs, that means the white blood corpuscles, gives the defense against infectious agents like bacteria, viruses and parasites. And there are two types of mechanisms. One is diapedesis, another one is positive chemotaxis. So these WBCs you can see in the diagram, which helps us in fighting against the microorganisms. So depending on the presence or absence of granules, WBCs are divided into two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. The granulocytes includes neutrophils, eosinophils and basophil. Neutrophils are which constitute about 60 to 65% of total WBCs. They are phagocytic in nature and appear in large number in and around the infected tissues. Phagocytics means they will kill the infected cells or they will digest the infected cells, and they are the first responder to the foreign bodies. They tend to increase in number during an infection. Next one is eosinophils. The eosinophils are very thin strands. They are non-phagocytic and constitute about 2 to 3% of total WBCs. Eosinophils increase during certain type of parasitic infections and allergic reactions. Third one is basophils. They are less numerous or less in number than any type of WBCs, constituting about 0.5% to 1% of the total number of the WBCs. So basophils secrete substances such as heparin, serotonin and histamines. They are also involved in inflammatory reactions. So next one is agranulocytes. There are two types of agranulocytes, which are lymphocytes and monocytes. Lymphocytes constitute 28% of WBCs. There are two types of lymphocytes are B and T lymphocytes. They are responsible for the immune responses of the body. B cells produce antibodies, whereas T cells are involved in the cell-mediated immunity. In the diagram you can see the granulocytes, the granular leukocytes and agranular leukocytes. So granular leukocytes are three: eosinophil, basophils and neutrophils, and agranulocytes are two types. They are lymphocytes and monocytes. Yes, both the lymphocytes, B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes helps in killing the microorganisms. B lymphocytes, that means bone marrow lymphocytes. These lymphocytes will get matured in the bone marrow, whereas T lymphocytes will get matured in the thymus. Okay, yes. Next we will see about the monocyte. Monocyte are also known as macrophages. They are phagocytic cells that are similar to mast cell and have a kidney shaped nucleus. They constitute about 1 to 3% of total WBCs. The macrophage of the central nervous system or the microglia. In the sinusoids of the liver, they are called Kupffer cells. And in the pulmonary region, they are the alveolar macrophages. Next one is blood platelets. Blood platelets are called thrombocytes that are produced from bone marrow and lack nucleus. Blood normally contains about 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 platelets per cubic millimeter of the blood. They secrete substances involved in coagulation or clotting of blood. The reduction in platelet number can lead to clotting disorders and thus result in excess loss of blood from the body. Now we have learned about what is blood, what is the composition of the blood, the plasma and the blood cells. Next we have learned about the composition of the plasma and what are the blood cells, and we learned in detail about all the blood cells. Now we will learn about the blood groups. Commonly, two types of blood groupings are there. They are ABO and RH, which are widely used all over the world. Learn about the ABO blood grouping. Depending on the presence or absence of the surface antigens on the RBCs, blood group in individual belongs to four different types, namely A, B, AB and O. The plasma of A, B and O individuals have natural antibodies, that is the agglutinins in them. Surface antigens are called as agglutinogens. So these agglutinins and agglutinogens forms the major role in the ABO blood grouping. The antibodies, which is the agglutinin acting on agglutinogen A, is called anti-A, and the agglutinin acting on agglutinogen B is called anti-B. Agglutinogens are absent in O blood group. Agglutinogens A and B are present in the AB blood group and does not contain anti-A and anti-B in them. Distribution of antigens and antibody in blood groups. A, B, O are major allelic genes in ABO systems. All agglutinogens contain sucrose, D-galactose, N-acetyl glucosamine and 11 terminal amino acids. The attachments of the terminal amino acids are dependent on the gene products of A and B. Their reaction is catalyzed by glycosyl transferase. So at least there are 3 commonly occurring antigens have been found on the cell membrane of red blood cells. This can cause antigen and antibody reaction if mixed with plasma that contain antibody against this antigen. So according to the presence or absence of the antigens, blood is classified into several groups or types. The two groups of antigen can cause transfusion reactions more than others. So in the ABO blood group, the blood group A is present about 41% in the human race, and blood group O is of 47%, B is of 99%, and AB group of 3%. So the blood group A will have agglutinogen A and agglutinin anti-B. So agglutinogens are also called as antigens and agglutinin are called as antibodies. So these antigens will be present in RBCs and antibodies will be present in the blood plasma. So the blood group A will have antigen A and antibodies B, and the blood group B will be having antigen B and antibody A. In the picture you can see these details. And the blood type AB will be having antigen AB, both A and B, and there will be no antibodies. Whereas in the O, there won't be any antigens, but the antibodies A and B will be present. So this is how the ABO blood groups are categorized, and these are all naturally occurring antibodies which results in the formation of these 4 blood groups. So apart from this, there is a Rh factor. So Rh factor is a protein which is also called as the D antigen, present on the surface of the red blood cells in majority 80% of the humans. This protein is similar to the protein present in the rhesus monkey, hence the term Rh. Individuals who carry the antigen D on the surface of the red blood cells are Rh positive, and the individuals who do not carry antigen D are Rh negative. Rh factor compatibility is also checked before blood transfusion. In the above diagram you can see, for the blood type A, antigen A is present and the antibody B will be there, that is in the plasma. For type B, in the red blood cells, antigen B will be there and antibody A will be present inside the plasma. For the type AB, both A and B antigens will be there in the red blood cells and there won't be any antibody inside the plasma. For the type O, neither A or B antigen will be there, but both the antibodies A and B will be there in the plasma. So this is how the ABO blood groupings are made, and I said about the Rh factor. So Rh factor is depend on the antigen D. Yes. So if the type D antigen is present on RBC, it is Rh positive. So we have to check the Rh factor before any blood transfusion. When a pregnant woman is Rh minus and the fetus having Rh plus, mismatch is observed. Pregnancy, the Rh minus antigens on the fetus does not get exposed to the mother's blood, as both their blood are separated by the placenta. However, small amount of fetal antigen becomes exposed to the mother's blood during the birth of the first child. The mother's blood starts to synthesize D antibodies, but during the subsequent pregnancies, the Rh antibodies from the mother enters the fetal circulation and destroys the fetal RBCs. This becomes fatal to the fetus because the child suffers from anemia and jaundice. This condition is called as erythroblastosis fetalis. This condition can be avoided by administration of anti-D antibodies given to the mother immediately after the first childbirth. So, because of that, the hemolytic disease HDN can be prevented. So, this Rh incompatibility is known as the erythroblastosis fetalis. Rh negative lady marrying a Rh positive man. If a baby is Rh positive, fetal red blood cells leaks to the maternal circulation during placental separation. Mother starts to make anti-Rh antibody. Next pregnancy, which Rh positive baby, what will happen is the anti-Rh antibody pass to the baby and cause agglutination of the and hemolysis of the RBC, which may cause anemic condition, and also it may cause the jaundice. So in the diagram you can see this very well. You can pause it and see it. So this condition can be overcome by using the medicine RhoGAM injection. Next we will see about the blood clotting. Blood clotting is nothing but the maintenance of the homeostasis. The term hemostasis means prevention of blood loss. So the hemostasis is the presence or the process of forming clots in the walls of damaged blood cells and preventing blood loss while maintaining blood in the fluid state within the vascular system. So we will learn about the coagulation of the blood. So if you cut your finger or when you get yourself hurt, your wound bloods or your wound bleeds for some time, after which it stops to bleed. This is because the blood clots or coagulates in response to this trauma. The mechanism by which excessive blood loss is prevented by the formation of blood clot is called as blood coagulation or clotting of the blood. The clotting process begins immediately after the accident. The clotting process begins when the endothelium of the blood vessel is damaged and the connective tissue in its wall is exposed to the blood. The blood platelets adhere to the collagen fibers in the connective tissue and release substances that form the platelet plug, which provides emergency protection against the blood loss. So there are four main steps, that is vascular spasm, platelet reaction, formation of the platelet plug, and finally blood coagulation takes place. The clotting factors are released from the clumped platelets or damaged cells mix with clotting factors in the plasma. The protein called prothrombin is converted into its active form called thrombin in the presence of calcium and vitamin K. Thrombin helps in the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin threads. That threads of fibrin becomes interlinked into a patch that wraps blood cell and seals the injured vessel until the wound is healed. After some time, fibrils contract, squeeze out a straw-colored fluid through a meshwork called serum. Heparin is an anticoagulant produced in small quantities by the mast cells of connective tissue, which prevents coagulation in small blood vessels. So you can see in the diagram what happens when a wound takes place. Platelets addition occurs when there is a wound, and these blood platelets produce fibrin, which forms a mixture called as the serum, and which helps in the clotting of the blood. So generally, after a wound, a stimulus will be taken place in the place of tissue damage. So it is called as the muscle spasm. So after that, the platelet plug formation will be formed. So the clotting mechanism involves a cascade of reactions in which clotting factors are activated. Most of them are plasma proteins synthesized by the liver. Vitamin K is needed for the synthesis of factors such as 2, 7, 9 and 10. They are always present in the plasma in an inactive form. When activated, they act as a proteolytic enzymes which activate other inactive enzymes. Several of these steps require calcium and platelet phospholipid. So it is a series of mechanism. So there are two types of blood clotting mechanism, intrinsic and extrinsic. In the intrinsic blood clotting mechanism, production of prothrombin activator substances will takes place, and this prothrombin will convert to that thrombin, and that thrombin acts enzymatically on fibrinogen, and this fibrinogen forms the threads of fibrin, and these fibrin threads at the damaged site will wrap the blood cells and the blood platelets. In the diagram you can see there are two pathways, intrinsic and extrinsic. So in the intrinsic pathway, prothrombin will be converted into thrombin. This thrombin will be converting fibrinogen into the fibrin, and this fibrin will trap the blood coming out of the wound, thus prevents us from the loss of blood, which may cause us the death. So my dear students, now we have seen about the blood flow, about the blood in detail and its other functions. So in the next part we will be seeing about the how this blood is circulated all over our body. So with this video, assignment will be given and the questions are attached to you. Kindly write those assignments and submit it on time and try to learn those questions. Thank you very much.